What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Maylari. So this weekend, the Red Sox played the Dodgers in a weekend series at Fenway Park. I know I wanted to do a recap of each game, and I said I would get to, but unfortunately, it was busy over the last few days, so didn't get to do that. So here I am now talking about the Red Sox and Dodgers series. I'll give my thoughts on that series, talk about the Red Sox and Astros series, Game 1 being last night, Game 2 being tonight, and then I'll talk about the Angels and what just went down there in the last hour with the Angels releasing a handful of players, including some that they just got at the trade deadline just about a month or so ago now. So I'll give you my thoughts on that at the end. But we're going to start off now with the Red Sox and Dodgers. Mookie Betts' return to Fenway Park was a special one. There were ovations just about every single at-bat for him. I was there on Friday night, so I got to see his first at-bat back at Fenway Park. Everybody was going nuts. There was a nice tribute on the scoreboard in center field for Mookie Betts, as well as Ryan Brazier as well. He got one for being part of the 2018 World Series run. It was just a great weekend to see them all back in Boston. JD Martinez wasn't there since he was hurt, but you got to see Mookie Betts, Kike Hernandez back in Boston. He was a fan favorite when he was here. Everyone was going nuts when he went up to the plate. Ryan Brazier, also David Roberts as well. I mean, that was a guy that was a big reason the Red Sox won that World Series in 2004, making that big steal in Game 4 of the ALCS versus the Yankees. A steal that everybody knew he was going on that pitch, and he ends up still being safe and beating the throw of Jorge Posada there to Derek Jeter at second, somehow getting his hand in to the base right before the ball reached him and the glove reached him. So impressive, obviously, there. But it was a great weekend, though. You got to see all the former teammates dap up, hug, talk in between the game. Rafael Devers, Mookie Betts had a nice moment I got to see since I was sitting on the third base line. Got to see them both talk, in the middle of an inning, which was nice during a pitching change. So obviously a great thing to see them back in Boston. Mookie really took advantage of the moment. He was unreal this weekend against the Red Sox. He was 7 for 15 in the series with a .467 batting average, a home run, 4 runs batted in, 2 doubles, 5 runs scored. In the month of August, a .446 batting average to go along with a .782 slugging percentage, a .1282 OPS, 8 home runs, 25 runs batted in. He's now the NL favorite to win the MVP vote. And in the first week of July, I said, when he was plus 2,200 in the first week of July, I said, buy in on Mookie Betts right now to win the NL MVP, because I was saying he was making a run. I said he's a dark horse candidate still, but I think Mookie Betts is going to make a run. Then at the All-Star break, I stayed consistent, even though he's still a long shot at that point. I stayed consistent with Mookie Betts being my MVP favorite and being the pick at the end of the season. And now look at it. He's now the NL MVP favorite, partly because of how hot he's been in the month of August, hitting .446. Freddie Freeman, in this series against the Red Sox, he was great as well. 7 of 13 with a .539 batting average, 3 doubles, a run batted in, and 4 runs scored. He was a tough guy to get out, including Friday night, where he was 4 for 5, 3 runs scored, a double, and a run batted in. Max Muncy as well was another tough guy to get out for the Red Sox. He was 2 for 5 in that game on Friday night with 3 runs batted in. The Dodgers really got things going late in the game on Friday night, scoring 3 runs in the 6th inning, 3 runs in the 7th inning, and then a run in the 9th as well to win that game 7-4. That was the game I was at. The Sox were in it until the end. Things got out of hand late, though, losing, as I said, 7-4, giving up 7 runs from the 6th inning to the 9th inning. But the Sox were up 3-0 at one point. Trevor Story hit a nice home run early in the 2nd inning. Same thing with Alex Verdugo. He had a leadoff home run on Friday night and on Saturday as well. He actually had 3 games in a row with a leadoff home run. Didn't do it Sunday, unfortunately, or in yesterday's game against the Astros. But the Red Sox did get things going early in that game. They're up 3-0 on Friday night. Things were looking up. And Cutter Crawford was also great on the mound. Nice to see him pitch in person. He dominated on the mound on Friday, going 5 innings, 4 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, a walk on 86 pitches. He looked very good in person. Happy to be able to see him pitch live for a game. I'm always used to just watching him on TV. It was nice to see him pitch in person live at Fenway Park. And the Sox were hitting around Lance Lynn as well. So you had Cutter Crawford pitching great in the mound, and the Sox hit around Lance Lynn, especially early in the game, getting a run in the first, and then a couple in the 2nd inning. That was great to be up 3-0 right away. Lynn went 6 innings, giving up 10 hits, 4 runs, with 3 of those being earned, a strikeout and a walk. The Red Sox had opportunities to score, but whether it was not having a big hit in a big moment or it was poor base running, the Red Sox found themselves ways to lose that game on Friday night, including a big situation in the later innings where it was 1st and 2nd, 2 outs. Alex Verdugo at the plate had a great single to right field, and Connor Wong rounded second base too much, going from 1st to 2nd. And I think he thought that Casas, who was going from 2nd to 3rd on that play, was going to round 3rd and try to score. Wasn't going to be a right decision to make, considering the Dodgers had a great relay in. He would have got thrown up at the plate. Casas should have stayed put at 3rd like he was intending to, which he ended up staying put at 3rd. But Wong thought that Casas was going to round third and try to score on that play, and unfortunately he gets himself picked off in a run down there. So the Red Sox lose in that situation. Verdugo was great in the game, 3 for 5, including that hit that I just mentioned. And then on Saturday, the Red Sox won the game 8-5. They were down 4-2 in the fifth inning after Max Muncy hit his 30th home run of the season. Adam Duvall responded with his 15th home run of the year. Then Justin Turner a couple innings later had an RBI single in the seventh. James Paxton got the start for the Red Sox on Saturday, but he kind of struggled yet again, just going 4 1/3 innings on the mound, giving up 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and then 5 walks. He's been really struggling with control over his last few outings. Julio Urias got the start for the Dodgers. He got hit around by the Red Sox, going 6 innings, giving up 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 home runs allowed, 9 strikeouts, and 1 walk. He was really good in his last 4 outings heading into that game on Saturday, but the Red Sox really hit him around and got things going, especially in those later innings that he was out there. Mookie Betts was 3 for 6 in the game with an RBI and a double. And then on Sunday, the Dodgers, once again, just did what they always do, have big hits in big situations from Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, among others, and that got them the win there on Sunday with Betts going 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, a home run, and 3 runs batted in. Freddie Freeman added in another 3 hits. He was 3 for 5 with a run scored and 2 doubles. Tanner Houck got the start for the Red Sox. He was pretty good in 4 innings, giving up just 5 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks on 80 pitches. Now just his second start since coming back from that facial fracture. He looked pretty good, though, in that game against the Dodgers. And then Connor Murphy was raked in relief, though, for the Red Sox after Houck came out. 4 innings, giving up 9 hits, 6 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. As for the Dodgers, it was Gavin Stone who went in middle relief for them, going 6 innings, giving up 5 hits, 4 runs, and 2 strikeouts. And as I said, Betts and Freeman were just the whole offense that day for the Dodgers, both going 3 for 5 and having big hits in big moments. But they found ways to hit the whole series, though. The rest of their lineup was productive against the Red Sox as well. But those 2 guys, obviously the 2 biggest terrors in that lineup, and 2 of the best hitters in the game of baseball. As for the Red Sox, Adam Duvall hit another home run in that game on Sunday. He was 2 for 4, and then Tristan Casas was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs, a home run, and a double. So obviously the series didn't go well for the Red Sox. I thought the Red Sox could take 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. I knew that would be a hot take, especially considering how hot that the Dodgers have been in the month of August, but I had a feeling the Red Sox would try to play up to their competition. They've played good teams consistently all year, and they've been finding ways to win against better teams. It's really the poor teams the Red Sox have really struggled with. Games they should win, they've been losing on the year, and that series that you think they're going to lose, they end up finding a way to win. So I think the Red Sox could steal 2 of 3 there against the Dodgers. Taking 1 of 3, though, obviously isn't the best case scenario. You want a 2 of 3, but you'll take 1 of 3 considering the Dodgers have been dominating the major leagues in the whole month of August. And honestly, since the All-Star break, they've been really one of the best teams in baseball. They've really consistently found ways to win each and every series. So you'll take 1 of 3 at the end of the day. It was nice to see the Dodgers play in person, though. So this year, I've seen Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and the Dodgers play in person, and then Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, and the Angels play in person. Getting to see 2 of my other favorite teams besides the Red Sox in person really has been something special, and obviously an honor just to be able to see them play at Fenway Park in person. Seeing superstars like Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, and Trout, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So I'm happy I was able to see those things. And I also got to see Tanner Houck pitch in person this year, Cutter Crawford pitch in person this year. So I'm starting to see a lot of my favorite players play in person, which is obviously awesome. Now I'm going to move on to the Red Sox series against the Astros. And one thing for this Red Sox team is they need to find ways now to win in the month of August and in September, considering now they're playing a lot of teams that are ahead of them in the AL wildcard race, including the Astros. But unfortunately, the Red Sox ended up finding a way to lose last night, despite an Adam Duvall 2-run home run in the bottom of the 5th to give the Red Sox a 4-3 lead. Things were looking up for the Red Sox, down 3-2 heading into the bottom of the 5th inning. Kyle Barraclough came into the game in the top of the 5th, got the 3rd out for the Red Sox to go into that bottom of the 5th inning down 3-2. And then Adam Duvall had the 2-run home run, big home run there to make it 4-3 Sox. And then things went downhill for the Red Sox. Barraclough went 4 1/3 innings, giving up 11 hits, 10 earned runs, 2 home runs, a strikeout, and 5 walks. The Sox chose not to warm anybody up, not to bring anybody in relief, and they just let the game get out of hand. And it's tough to see that, because the Red Sox are still in the mix of things in the AL wildcard race. Even though it's still a long shot for them to make the playoffs, and the odds are still against them, they are still alive and still have a chance to make the playoffs. And they really just threw in the towel last night and said, screw it, we'll lose this game and just give up. They just kept that reliever in the game, Barraclough, and left him out to dry. 4 1/3 innings, giving up 11 hits, 10 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 5 walks. And Alex Cora maybe could have brought somebody else in after he gave up a few runs or had a few walks, but he chose just to keep him in the game. So does that mean Alex Cora gave up on this season? Because I still believe there is a chance that the Red Sox can make a run if they were to make the playoffs. Obviously now, The odds are even more against them now than they were yesterday at this time. But it's sad to not see them try, especially against a team that they're chasing and that they're behind right now in the AL wildcard race. When you're playing teams that are in front of you, that's the best advantage you can get because you can beat them and gain a gain on them head-to-head right away and gain a game while they're losing a game. And that's the issue. The Red Sox chose to throw in the towel last night. And I'm not sure who was available. The Red Sox had 4 righty relievers not available for last night's game, and then also no lefty relievers. So maybe Alex Cora's left with no option but to say, Barraclough here, we're going to leave you out to dry because we have no other options. Maybe it's him sending a message to Chaim Bloom for not giving him any relievers at the trade deadline, which obviously Bloom and Cora have been on different wavelengths on a lot of decisions over the last couple seasons. You can kind of tell there's a little bit of frustration between Alex Cora and Chaim Bloom, which is understandable. You're not always going to have a GM and a coach or a manager that always gets along on every single decision. It's hard because you're going to have different opinions, and that's part of the business. You're not going to agree with every single person in your front office always. But you want to at least agree more of the time than not. And it seems like Bloom and Cora have a little bit of an issue there between them agreeing and seeing eye to eye. And the Sox right now, it's still in the midst of things in the AL wildcard race. So seeing the Red Sox just throw in the towel last night and see Alex Cora just give up like that isn't the best message to the team, the locker room, the fans. Nobody in general really has had a good message to. Not even Chaim Bloom even. Because obviously I'm not blaming Alex Cora for the relievers that the Red Sox have available. Who knows who was available and who wasn't. But at the end of the day, he is the one that makes the decision to keep a guy in the game. And I'm not blaming Bloom for that reason for last night the Red Sox threw in the towel. Because Alex Cora could have taken Barraclough out at any point. It wasn't Chaim Bloom's decision to keep Barraclough in the game. You can blame Bloom, I guess, for not getting any relievers to the Red Sox at the trade deadline. Yeah, that's something you can keep him accountable for. But last night, that's all on Alex Cora for keeping that guy in the game. When the Sox are still in the midst of things in the AL wildcard race, it's sad to see them just throw in the towel, especially in a game where they're still up a run at one point. They were up 4-3 after a 2-run home run by Duvall. And they still just chose to throw that game away. Now the Red Sox are 5.5 games back of the AL wildcard race. And things aren't over. But the odds are definitely now more against the Red Sox today than they were yesterday. And to make matters worse, the Astros got really hot last night as a team, winning that game 13-5. 13-5 winning that game last night. Scoring 6 runs in the 6th inning, 2 in the 7th, and 2 in the 8th, with 18 total hits. And Jose Altuve hit for the cycle. 4 for 6 last night, 4 RBIs, a single, double, triple home run, and a strikeout. Now his batting average is up to .322 in the season. So things just went poor for the Red Sox last night. Tonight, it's Brian Bayo on the mound, 10-7 record on the year with a 3.56 ERA. He was on the mound for the Red Sox last week in a 17-1 monster outing against Houston at Minute Maid Park. That was a big win for the Red Sox, 17-1. And on the mound for Houston is that same pitch that started for Houston in that 17-1 game. It is J.P. France on the mound for Houston. He has a 9-5 record on the year, 9 wins, 5 losses, a 3.51 ERA. The Sox just lit him up in his last outing for 10 earned runs and 11 hits in 2 1/3 innings pitched. Hopefully the Red Sox can find a way to win tonight. Tomorrow, it'll be Framber Valdez on the mound for Houston. He's 9-9 on the year with a 3.4 ERA. For the Sox, it'll be Cutter Crawford, who is 6-6 on the year with a 3.65 ERA. I think the Sox find a way to bounce back and win both these games. Maybe that's just wishful thinking at the end of the day. They need to take at least one of these 2 games that are remaining. Still losing 2 of 3 in the series is still a tough stretch. But if they at least take one, at least you know, okay, they didn't completely throw in the towel. If they lose all 3, completely throw this season away, things are just done for them. If they take one of these last 2 games and take one of 3, obviously not a great series, but at least they still fought and tried to make it at least competitive. If they take 2 of 3, they're back in business and still in the midst of things there in the AL. I'd like to see the Red Sox win both of these games. Obviously, it's still a long shot take considering how poor they looked last night, but the relievers were sitting last night. It was Barraclough on the mound for the Red Sox last night, so hopefully their bullpen is well rested and ready to go in relief of Bayo tonight. Hopefully a good outing out of Bayo. The Red Sox need it now more than ever. So now I'm going to move on and talk about some big news across the major leagues over the last hour, and that was a report coming from Jeff Passan of ESPN, and he talked about the Angels and said that they just made a flurry of moves in the last hour, including releasing starter Lucas Giolito, reliever Reynaldo Lopez, 2 of those players they just got from the Chicago White Sox just about a month ago now at the trade deadline in a trade. Reliever Matt Moore they also released. And then outfielders Hunter Renfroe and Randal Grichuk, all 5 of those players being placed on waivers. And the interesting thing there is 3 of those 5 players were players the Angels just got at the trade deadline a month ago. Grichuk, Giolito, and Lopez. Now all 3 of them are being placed on waivers. And it does come down to being a salary dump thing. The Angels know that they have no shot now to make the playoffs, and they're completely clearing the house, getting rid of players and trying to save some money and try to get under the luxury tax. But at the end of the day, it's not a great message. And I'm going to give you my whole thought process on this whole situation. So it's probably going to be about a 10-minute rant here on the Angels, which now I've done a handful of times over the last few months, going off about the Angels and their bad luck and supporting Perry Minasian last week, which I know I supported him last week for going all in at the trade deadline, and obviously it did fail. If you look back, yes, things didn't work out there. But what he did today, I think, was worse than what he did at the trade deadline. Because what he did today makes what he did at the trade deadline look even worse. Because everybody knew the Angels at this point where they stood today were out of the playoffs. But the decision he made today to release those players made the Angels hit rock bottom even more. Because now it puts what they did at the trade deadline on display even more. It proves that all the moves they made to go all in were even more of a fail than you'd think. Because it's not like they still were in contention at this point in the season. There's still a month left to go, and they're already throwing in the towel saying, we're done. And that's probably the right thing to do, considering they're 11.5 games back of the last wildcard spot right now, 3-7 in the last 10 games, 7-18 in the month of August, and they sit at 63-69 overall. 11.5 games back. They got no shot where they stand right now. And I know I had the whole rant last week about Perry Minasian and how much I supported him for going all in at the trade deadline. I explained why the Angels went all in at the trade deadline and why it made sense at the time for them to go all in when they were only 3 games back of the last wildcard spot. And obviously now when you look back, it failed. But I think with what he did today, it proves even more that the Angels had such a failure of a trade deadline. Everybody knew the trade deadline didn't go well for the Angels, and they could have traded Ohtani. Instead, they chose to buy and go all in and try to make a run with this year's team, which I still respect Perry Minasian for doing so. It takes guts to do that, and at the time, when he did it, the Angels were only 3 games out, and I think it was the right decision. But now when you're releasing 2 of your better relievers, including one of them you just traded for in Reynaldo Lopez, and you're also trading for Lucas Giolito, and you're also trading for Randal Grichuk, and releasing those 2 players as well. So you're releasing 3 players you just traded for within the last month. That's obviously not a good look. You're trading for 3 players at the deadline, and you're releasing 3 of them already a month later. And we'll see what happens. CJ Cron is another guy maybe they could release. I'm not really too sure what's going to go on there, but they did just release 5 players. Maybe they go and choose to release a few more. We'll see what happens. But you're also releasing one of your best relievers in Matt Moore, your best reliever probably overall. Moore and Lopez are your 2 best relievers, both with ERAs in the 2s. Earned run averages somewhere around 2 to 2.5. And you're releasing them with a month left of the season. You're waving the white flag, which I get it to some degree because the Angels aren't going anywhere now where they stand currently on August 29th. But in some regard, it's like dropping all of your best players in fantasy football right before the playoffs so that all of the top teams that are contending for the championship can go and snag whatever player they need at whatever position, which it's not against Major League rules to do that. It's not against MLB rules to go out and release players at this point in the season. And some teams do this every single year just to save money, which it's not uncommon to see this happen. But at the same time, releasing that many players, including guys you just traded away prospects for to acquire at the trade deadline, is not the best look to fans, not the best look to your clubhouse, and obviously isn't the best look when you reflected on yourself in the moves you made at the trade deadline. It makes your mistakes look even bigger, which, as I said, sometimes in life, if you want a big reward, you got to take that big risk. And taking that big risk can sometimes slap you in the face. And you know when you take that big risk, things can go completely south and you completely lose, or things can go completely north and work out and you could end up winning. But you never know how far you can get in life, being a general manager, anything in general, without trying to take a shot downfield. You never know how far you can get or how much you can succeed without taking a shot downfield and airing the ball out and seeing what happens on a 50-50 ball. And I'm relating that to the NFL there with the airing the ball out, 50-50 ball, and taking a shot downfield. Because playing conservative typically doesn't get you a ring or a playoff push in the Angels' regard. You have to try to take a big risk. That's what Perry Minasian did at the trade deadline, and I still support him for doing that. And maybe I supported that decision just out of wanting Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout to win. Because I feel like those 2 guys deserve to win more than any players in the game of baseball. Who wouldn't want them to win? 2 guys that are the 2 best talents in the game of baseball and don't have any playoff success to show for it. And when you look where the Angels were at the trade deadline, they were 56-51 overall, 56 wins, 51 losses, so 5 games over 500. It were 3 games back at the deadline, just 3 games back. Yes, with a crazy gauntlet of a schedule coming in the month of August, but does that mean not to try? Does that mean just completely give up and give in? They went all in to try to give Shohei Ohtani a chance at the playoffs and try to keep him around long term. Maybe they could have made a run in the playoffs and said, hey, Shohei, we made some moves at the trade deadline. Try to build this team around you. Obviously, things didn't work out. We didn't win the World Series like every single team wants to at the beginning of every season. But we at least made a run in the playoffs. We showed some progress. Try to come back, sign long term, and we guarantee you we'll get you back here next year. And when I look back, I probably would have done the same thing that Perry Minasian did, especially if Shohei Ohtani came up to me 3 days before the trade deadline and said that he wants to stay through the trade deadline and doesn't want to be traded. Of course you're going to want to keep him, especially when your best player says, I want to stay here and I'm buying into this team. Of course Minasian's going to buy in as well. It made sense at the time. 3 games back at the trade deadline, I agreed with him in those decisions he made in those trades. Getting Giolito, getting Cron and Grichuk, I agreed with those deals. But in hindsight, you look back and you say, this looks like the worst trade deadline of all time. Not trading Shohei Ohtani and potentially getting back a monster return. And then trading top prospects for Giolito and Lopez. And then also trading for Grichuk and Cron and having things completely fall apart within 1 month. But I don't think anybody could have seen this bad of a collapse for the Angels. And this has just been the story for the Angels over the last few seasons. And honestly, during the entire Trout and Ohtani era. Things always find a way to completely collapse. Whether it's a bad injury, whether it's a player going cold, whether it's a big contract not working out, the Angels have had their fair share of collapses and disasters over the last few seasons. And honestly, as I said, throughout the entire Trout and Ohtani era. Every single time things look like they're going up, they're making a big trade, getting a big acquisition, signing a big free agent, they're going on a win streak, whatever it may be, things always find a way to go south there for the Angels. That's why I feel bad for them. That's why I feel bad, because they took a shot at the deadline and tried to go all in. And if you look at what they traded at the deadline, they traded 2 of their top prospects, and left-handed pitcher Kai Busch and catcher Edgar Quero, trading both of those guys to the Chicago White Sox for Giolito and Lopez. Both of those guys are now on waivers. And then for Grichuk and Cron, they traded prospects for those guys as well. Grichuk now being gone already. Matt Moore, Hunter Renfroe, 2 guys that they got in free agency at one point. Both gone now too. Renfroe was a guy they just added this past offseason. And now, if my math is right, with all 5 of these players being put on waivers, if these guys are picked up by contending teams, which I'd imagine they'll be picked up by some contending teams, since everybody has a hole at some point in their roster at this point in the season. They need help, whether it's an injury or playing not producing. Everybody could use these 5 players if they're making a run in the postseason. So let's say, I don't know, the Texas Rangers, Houston Astros, Cincinnati Reds, Miami Marlins. These are just teams I'm just naming off the top of my head that could use each of these players. So if you look at it, all 5 of these guys probably should be picked up because contending teams, they all have an issue or 2 that they need to try to fill in right now at this point in the season. And maybe a team could use a guy like Randal Grichuk off the bench, or a team could use 2 really good relievers like Lopez or Matt Moore. Or Hunter Renfroe. Maybe he could be a good bench piece off the bench for a certain team. But if my math's right, all 5 of these players they picked up, the Angels would save around $7 to $8 million because whatever team picks up these players would have to pay whatever their prorated salary is for the rest of the season. So I'd imagine it'd be around $7 to $8 million the Angels would save. And where the Angels currently stand right now, according to Cots baseball contracts, they're $8 million over the competitive balance tax. $8 million over the luxury tax. So where they stand right now, they're $241 million of payroll. The limit is $233 million. So they're trying to find a way to get under that. And the reason they're doing this is because they want to get under the CBT threshold so that if Shohei Ohtani does end up leaving and rejecting a qualifying offer and signing elsewhere in free agency, the Angels would get a higher compensation pick back in return. Because if Shohei does leave and rejects a qualifying offer, the Angels would get a compensation pick right after the second round, around pick 75 to 78, 80-ish, somewhere around that range. Around 75 to 80 they would get a compensation pick back for. But if Shohei Ohtani does end up leaving and they're over that CBT threshold, they would end up getting a pick right around the 4th round and 140th overall. So that's why they want to get under the luxury tax, because it's the difference of about 70-ish picks, whether it's 75 to 80 if they're under that CBT threshold and under the luxury tax, or if they're over that threshold, it would be around 140th overall. So they want to save themselves and try to get a higher draft pick if Shohei Ohtani does end up leaving. And it shows they're probably worried about losing him, because why wouldn't you be? You see things going south here. You see all these moves you made at the trade deadline not working out, big contracts not working out in years past, especially Anthony Rendon being one of them. And you know that Shohei Ohtani probably has a chance of leaving because he wants to go to a team that's better fit at winning and contending for years to come. In the Angels, where they stand right now, things are just not working out. When they do go all in and they try to make a big move, whether it's signing Anthony Rendon or trading for Lucas Giolito, things just have not gone their way. And even though I've supported them in their decision to go and make big moves at the trade deadline, things didn't go their way in reality when you look back. But at the time, you didn't know that things would go this south. You can't always look back in hindsight and say, I knew this was going to happen. Because in reality, no one's ever going to be right. No general manager is going to go 100 for 100 in trades, draft picks, signings. No one's ever going to go 100 for 100. That's just a reality. But the Angels are doing this because they are worried about losing Shohei Ohtani. They want to get a higher compensation pick back in return if he does end up leaving. But in reality, when you trade top prospects just a month ago and you're already releasing the players that you got back in return after mortgaging your future, it makes the situation look much worse from the perspective of a front office and then also from a fan's perspective as well. No one's really going to be a fan of what they just did today, releasing 5 players. What it does do, though, is save Adi Moreno in the front office some money. It saves them around, as I said, $7 to $8 million. Who knows the exact estimate, obviously. The Angels have that exact number, but no fan's probably going to have the exact number since there's different numbers online for what the Angels are at right now for a payroll. But from a fan standpoint, what they did today isn't a likable move. But with that being said, Giolito was awful for the Angels. He didn't work out. 1 for 5 in 6 starts with a 6.89 ERA, 25 earned runs, and 32 2/3 innings pitched with a 1.47 whip. He didn't work out. That was a failure. As for Grichuk and Renfroe, those 2 guys are still in the Angels lineup for tonight. And the reason they're still in the Angels lineup is because the waiver period is 48 hours. So they can play for the Angels up until that 48-hour window is over, and if a team does put in a waiver claim, end up getting them. So there's some weird rules obviously there, but it is legal for them to still be playing. Obviously weird and awkward to still see them in the lineup, but they're still there playing for the Angels in tonight's game. As for all 5 of these players, they're all free agents at the end of the season. None of them had a future with this team, and at the end of the day, it's all a salary dump for the Angels to get under the competitive balance tax and try to get a higher draft pick in return if Shohei Ohtani does end up leaving. But it isn't the best look, obviously. If Shohei Ohtani does leave at the end of the day, and let's say you knew he was probably going to leave no matter what, you end up getting a 70th pick, 80th pick in return, let's say, which obviously isn't the best look, when you could have maybe gotten a monster haul back in return. But that's not me going backwards on my words here. I do agree with the Angels keeping Ohtani at the trade deadline and trying to make a run with this current team, because where they stood at the trade deadline, they were just 3 games back and still had Trout and some other players coming back from injury at some point. And even though they did have a tough month of August of opponents, I still bought in to them still trying to buy with this team and trying to make a run. Because you knew at the end of the day, you only have Shohei Ohtani for another half a season. Why not try to make a run, make it enticing for him to try to come back to Anaheim on a long-term contract? And that's what the Angels did. They tried to make a run with Ohtani. They tried to build around him during this trade deadline even more and added pieces. And obviously each one of those pieces slapped him in the face just about. Even though Lopez was the only good return they got back at the trade deadline, he's now released as well. So, like I said, all these players are free agents at the end of the season. None of them had a future going back to Anaheim. And it was just a salary dump. But obviously not the best look there for Perry Minasian in the Angels front office. It just shows that the moves they made were not successful or worth the investment they put in, which is obviously clear. And that's looking back in hindsight. But obviously it shows it only took a month for things to go completely south and for them to rip up things even more and make this disaster even more of a mess and more of a black hole over the past few years with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout on the Angels. These 2 guys deserve to win more than anybody in the game of baseball. And the disaster just became even worse. And that's why I think the chances of signing Shohei Ohtani are even less now, which I said last week when Ohtani tore his UCL that I thought there would be a chance that the Angels would have now a better chance of re-signing him. I thought the Angels' chances realistically went up with Ohtani's injury because I thought the Angels would say, hey, Shohei, we obviously know you have the injury, but we're still interested in giving you a monster contract and getting you back here. Whatever money you want, even if it's a long-term deal, come back and we'll just make things work for you. We'll pay you whatever you want just because we know how much you mean to this franchise, and we obviously know you're a superstar and the best player in the game of baseball. Just come back. That's what I thought the chances were, because now there's going to be some teams that are reluctant to pay Shohei the 8 to 10 year deal that he would want in free agency without this UCL injury. But now with this injury, I think he still gets around $45-50 million a year, but I think it's going to be around 4 to 5 years of a deal rather than the 8 to 10 year deal. Because now with the UCL injury, if he were to get Tommy John surgery, which we're not too sure what's going to happen yet, he would miss all of this upcoming season in 2024 and then come back in 2025. And who knows how long his arm would last after that. But I think there is a chance that the Angels' chances did go up last week. But now, with the moves they made today, I think the chances went down. Whatever went up last week, they went down today. And not because Shohei is going to say, oh, we're throwing in the towel on the season, now I want to leave. No, I think it's, at the end of the day, I think Shohei sees it now even more, that a lot of the moves that the Angels have tried to make around him have not really worked out. And I think he obviously knows that. He's known that now for his career there. But I think now he sees it even more. That the disaster now the Angels have put together over the last few years just continues to get worse. Whether it be bad contracts, tough moves, or bad luck, which the Angels have had their fair share of every single one of those, I think Shohei sees it's even now more of a mess. And obviously that's tough to say and see. As an Angels fan, I like the Angels because I love Ohtani and I love Trout. I watched probably about 75% of their games this year I tuned into just to see Ohtani and Trout in the same lineup. And I've now mentioned it a million times that I'm a big fan of both these guys and I want them to win more than anybody. And being able to watch them is something that is historic and an honor, because you're not going to see two of the best players in the 21st century suit up and be on the same roster again. Ohtani and Trout being in the same lineup is something that's special. And things just didn't work out for Shohei, Trout, and the rest of the Angels during the tenure of both those guys being on the roster together. And so now it brings into question, who's going to pick up these 5 players? And at the end of the day, it's a waiver system, so it's in the reverse order of win percentage. So whatever team has the worst record in baseball has the best chance at getting any of these 5 players. But with that being said, there's probably not going to be too many teams that are already done with their season that are interested in getting these guys, because when you're going out and getting these guys, you're paying them the prorated salary that they're due, and you're already in a lost season. So for, let's say, the Oakland Athletics, the Colorado Rockies, none of these teams, even though they would be the top 2 waiver claims and would be able to get any of these 5 players they want, their season's already over. So realistically, they wouldn't want to go out there and spend the prorated salary to get those guys in uniform for 25 games or so. So it brings into question, what contenders have the best shot at getting Giolito and the rest of these guys? I'd start off with the Miami Marlins, 66 and 65, the Reds 68 and 65, Giants are 68 and 63, Diamondbacks 69 and 62, and the Red Sox are 69 and 63. I'd say those 5 teams of the contenders have the best chances at getting those players. And then also add in the Blue Jays at 72 and 60. They're another team there to note. So all 4 of those teams that I mentioned in the NL, Marlins, Reds, Giants, Diamondbacks, they're all separated by 2.5 games. The Red Sox currently are 5.5 games back of the last wildcard spot in the AL. The Blue Jays are another team, 72 and 60, 2.5 games back in the AL wildcard race. That's another team that could go out there and get one of these 5 players. But if I'm the Red Sox, the only guys I'm really interested in here are Lopez and Moore, not the rest of them. The Red Sox have a handful of outfielders already, so Grichuk and Renfroe really wouldn't help too much. And the Giolito was awful for the Angels. 1-5 in 6 starts with a 6.89 ERA. Obviously really struggled. If he were to go to a team like the Dodgers, which it's very unlikely because the Dodgers have one of the best win percentages in the game of baseball, he'd probably revive his career and turn back time. But the reality is he's probably not going to go to the Dodgers. Not many of these players have a chance of going to the top teams like the Orioles, like the Dodgers, like the Braves, because they got to pass through waivers. And as I said, it's an inverse order of win percentage. So if you have a really bad record, you have a higher chance at getting a player than a team with a very good record does. So if you're a team at the very top, there's going to be some team in the middle, a contender that's competing to make the playoffs, that are probably going to snag each of these 5 players. And we'll see what happens there. But Renfroe and Grichuk can still play for the Angels for the next 48 hours. So that's the reason they're still in the lineup tonight. Even though it's weird, that's just the way things are. You can still play even though you technically are waived and are no longer with the team. Until a team picks you up and gets you off waivers, you're still with this club and can still play. If I'm the Red Sox, though, I'm not really interested in too many of these players besides Moore and Lopez. 2 guys that could help out in the bullpen, a big weakness for the Red Sox. They would contribute right away, considering they both have ERAs in the 2s and have been good with the Angels this year. I would take both of those guys if I were the Red Sox. As for any of the other guys, Giolito, I'm not really too sure there's a way to fix him right now. I think he probably needs an offseason just to get back on track, reload, and figure things out. And like I said, it is an inverse of win percentage. So unless a team, for instance, like the Pittsburgh Pirates, could go out there and try to put in a waiver claim for any of these players and use it as a tryout and a showcase for a player to try to entice them to come back in free agency. Maybe the New York Mets and New York Yankees could do that. They are two teams that could afford paying a prorated salary on these players for the rest of the season, even if it's a couple $1 million here and there. They're not afraid of spending money. Each of those two franchises being the two highest payrolls in the game of baseball, and obviously both being on lost seasons right now. Maybe they could go out and try to put in a waiver claim for a guy like Giolito, or maybe say, hey, try to come back to us in free agency. Who knows? I mean, a lesser team could definitely do that at this point, but it's unlikely. I'd say more of the contending teams are likely to do that, and that's why I named the Marlins, Reds, Diamondbacks, Giants, Red Sox, and the Toronto Blue Jays. So just to conclude here with the Angels, I think at the end of the day, it does make sense from a financial standpoint, letting these players go. None of these guys had a future with this franchise. Grichuk was hitting just 140 with a 280 slugging percentage and a 470 OPS in 26 games for the Angels, with 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in, and 26 strikeouts in 26 games since being acquired by the Angels at the trade deadline. It made sense letting him go. As for the other piece, Giolito that they got at the trade deadline, the other big piece, he really struggled, as I said, 1-5 in 6 starts. Makes sense to let him go as well. He wasn't the player that the Angels wanted him to be when they traded for him. 1-5 with a 6.89 ERA in an Angels uniform. Obviously, things didn't work out there. Renfroe is a guy that got in free agency this past offseason. 18 home runs, 239 batting average with a 725 OPS. With a 94 OPS plus, the average in baseball in the major leagues is 100 for an OPS plus. So he's just slightly below average as a hitter this season, according to OPS plus. So if you look at it, it makes sense moving off from these guys. Renfroe, and then the same goes for Grichuk. The same goes for Giolito. But for Moore and Lopez, two of their better relievers, that's where the issue is there. They're waving the white flag on the season, which I get. But Lopez and Moore were two good pieces for them in the bullpen. And obviously, it just shows that even though these two players are good, they're just getting rid of them just as a salary dump, just to try to get under the CBT there threshold, just to try to get themselves in a better position that if Ohtani does end up leaving in free agency, which it is pretty likely at this point, which things have always looked like it's likely that he's going to leave, but at the same time, that doesn't mean go out and trade him at the trade deadline, because when you do trade him, there's no chance you're going to get him in free agency. That's why it made sense for them to buy at the trade deadline and try to build around Shohei Ohtani for one more half a season, because if you do trade him at the deadline, he's not coming back in free agency. At the same time, though, you could still lose by keeping him and then having him walk in free agency. So that's the risk that the Angels ran with and took. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned, you got to take big risks if you want to get big rewards. The Angels did so, and obviously things didn't work out for them. But you're never going to know how far you can go or how much you can succeed in life if you don't take a big risk. Playing it safe and always playing complacent and just staying still doesn't ever really help you get to that next level. So the Angels went all in and tried. Things didn't really work out there. But when you look at it from a fan's perspective, it's obviously not a good look. It's not a good look for other players in the clubhouse as well. Guys that are teammates of these guys, seeing you throwing the white flag, which it does make sense at this point. Like I said, the Angels currently sit 11.5 games back of the last wildcard spot in the American League. 7-18 in the month of August. It's just been a disaster of a month for the Angels. A very tough schedule, though. As I said, like I noted before the trade deadline, it's going to be a very tough month of August there, opponents-wise, for the Angels. But that doesn't mean just throwing the white flag on August 1st when you're 3 games out. It made sense to buy the trade deadline. When you look back in hindsight, Minasian's going to be ripped to shreds for years to come and probably decades, considering how much it could have got in return for Ohtani and how much they gave up in return to get Giolito and to get Reynaldo Lopez, sending 2 of the top prospects in return just for about 25 games or so with those 2 players on their roster. And obviously things went south there. So I don't really have to mention that again. Everybody knows things didn't work out for the Angels with those 2 pieces there coming into the trade deadline, and the same goes with Grichuk and the rest of the moves that the Angels have made now for honestly the past few years. Not many moves have really gone their way. But this move, though, when you look at it from a baseball perspective and a financial perspective, it makes sense. They want to get under the CBT and try to get themselves in a position to get a higher draft pick as a compensation pick in return if Ohtani does end up leaving. But from the other perspective, a fan's perspective, it's not a great look. From a clubhouse perspective, not a great look. And then also to pending free agents, not a great look. You see the Angels are a complete dumpster fire. They continue to find ways to just completely turn things upside down and have things go south. It's obviously not an enticing thing for free agents. Not many free agents are going to be attracted to the situation here, especially with the Angels' decision at the trade deadline now looking even worse with time. And it only took a month or so to say that. So now I'm going to move on and talk about the Yankees. One player that they cut today and waived was third baseman Josh Donaldson, who's currently on the 60-day IL, struggled heavily this season for the Yankees, a 142 batting average with 10 home runs, 15 runs batted in, and 659 OPS. In 2 seasons with the Yankees, he played 165 games, so just about 1 full season over the last 2 years, with 25 home runs, 77 runs batted in, 180 total strikeouts, a 385 slugging percentage, and a 678 OPS. If you look at his tenure with the Yankees, it was one that was a disaster and one that's forgettable for a lot of Yankees fans. The Yankees are definitely going to be happy to not have to see him in their lineup anymore hitting 140. It's just been a disaster there for Donaldson since being traded from Minnesota to the Yankees in exchange for Gio Urshela and Gary Sanchez. Not a bad return there for the Minnesota Twins. They got a good player in Gio Urshela who ends up leaving in free agency anyways, but solid player there and obviously was a better player over the last couple of years than what Josh Donaldson gave the Yankees. So there was an $8 million buyout for Josh Donaldson's 2024 option, so the Yankees will have to pay him at least that $8 million and probably the prorated salary for the end of this season, but the Yankees do get out of this deal, and now it'll be Josh Donaldson on the waiver wire as well, next to those 5 players there for the Angels. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Donaldson ends up going to the Dodgers next year and somehow finds a way to turn back time, because the Dodgers are just a factory at doing that. JD Martinez, Ryan Brazier, Jason Hayward, Kike Hernandez, they always find a way to get everything out of a player and turn back time and get players to be playing their best possible baseball. Joe Kelly goes back to the Dodgers, turns things around. Lance Lynn turns things around in a Dodgers uniform as well. They find ways to always do that. So Donaldson's done for the rest of the season. So maybe next year he'll sign with somebody this offseason, free agent. Maybe next season he goes to the Dodgers and turns back time, which I'm saying that kind of as a joke, but at the same time being legit. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the Dodgers and somehow becomes a productive player again, because the Dodgers always find a way to do that. So if Donaldson were to be picked up, or if any of these other 5 players that I mentioned from the Angels were to be picked up by Friday, they could be on a postseason roster for this upcoming postseason in October. And for the Yankees, things end up working out for them now, getting rid of Donaldson. Now they don't have to really deal with him being on the roster anymore. They just cut ties with him and completely wave the white flag on him in their future there, which it makes sense. It's just been a disaster for the Yankees with Donaldson in their uniform. The Yankees, where they currently stand, are 63-68, 5 games under 500, and are very far off from the playoffs, and are actually on the verge right now of their first losing season since 1992. First losing season since 1992. So that obviously brings into question, what are they going to do with Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman? Boone being the manager and Cashman being their general manager, are those guys going to be back? If I was Hal Steinbrenner, the Yankees owner, I would fire Cashman and I'd maybe give Aaron Boone 1 more year. I wouldn't be surprised if both these guys are fired. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if both these guys are back with the Yankees for another season, since Steinbrenner has a great relationship with both of these guys. But the roster was depleted with injuries this past season, and there was a lot of regressing talent. Anthony Rizzo, DJ LeMahieu, Luis Severino, a lot of players on this Yankees team that were regressing over the last year. So I don't really blame Aaron Boone for that. It's not Boone's fault, in my opinion. But sometimes moving off of the general manager and the manager is best, and that's what the Yankees might end up doing. Clearing house is sometimes the best option. If a new GM steps in, sometimes they want their own manager. When you look at the Giants, Joe Shane comes in as a new general manager and then ends up firing Joe Judge and brings in his own guy in Brian Daboll, and it ends up working out for the Giants. On the reverse, the Red Sox fired Dave Dombrowski. Alex Cora ends up being suspended for a year, but was still the Red Sox manager at that point when the Red Sox let go of Dombrowski during the 2019 season. The new general manager comes in Chaim Bloom, and he ends up keeping Alex Cora and getting him back after that suspended season in 2020. So it could go both ways, where sometimes clearing house is what a team decides to do, and then it could go the other way, where a new general manager steps in and decides to keep the same manager. That's sometimes the way things go in sports. And if you look at it for the Giants for years, they were hopping in between general manager and never restarting with the new regime. And that was a big issue there for the Giants, and that's what really held them up for the last 5 years before Brian Daboll and Joe Shane stepped in as general manager and coach of the Giants. The Giants end up deciding to fire Pat Shermer after 1 year, but then they keep Dave Gettleman, and he hires Joe Judge. Then they fire Dave Gettleman. Joe Judge is still in the mix of things, maybe coming back as the head coach. Joe Shane steps in and then fires Joe Judge, restarts, clears house, and things worked out, obviously, last year for the New York Giants. So we'll see what happens here with the Yankees. If I'm the Yankees, though, and I'm Hal Steinbrenner, I'm firing Brian Cashman. Things have not worked out over the last few seasons. Some big moves that he's made obviously haven't worked out. And the Yankees this season are on the verge of their first losing season since 1992, which is honestly impressive. No losing seasons since 1992. That's very impressive on that franchise. No losing seasons in 30 years is just ridiculous. So that's obviously something they can be proud of in the last 30 years. Only one losing season this would be since 1992. But when I look at this situation with the Yankees, I think there's a good chance that Cashman's back still with the Yankees for another season. And the reason why I say that is because Steinbrenner and Cashman are very good friends. He hired Cashman as an intern back in the 80s and then ends up signing him to be the general manager for the Yankees in 1998, which he's been in that role since 1998. Helped the Yankees win a World Series in 98, 99, 2000, and 2009. 4 years as a general manager for the Yankees. Also as the assistant general manager for the Yankees when they won in 1996. So he's been with the franchise for a very long time and obviously is good friends with Hal Steinbrenner. So I don't think it's going to be Steinbrenner firing him. I think it's either going to be Cashman's back for another year. If Cashman feels the heat and thinks it's time to go, maybe he resigns. But I think he'll be back for another season. And the same probably goes for Boone as well. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees keep both of these guys. But at the same time, wouldn't be surprised if Steinbrenner rips it up and says, let's just restart. Obviously, we had a great tenure here with Cashman, winning 4 World Series with him as the general manager, and then another as the assistant general manager, so 5 World Series with him being either the assistant or the general manager itself. But it's been a great run. Now we got to go in a different direction because things haven't really worked out in recent years. With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if they just run it back for another year. As I said, these two guys are very good friends, and it'd obviously be tough to fire one of your friends. But it is a business at the end of the day, and that's what it comes down to. Anyways, that will conclude this episode. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a good one. I will see you guys in the next episode. Probably we'll record tomorrow on today's NFL cuts. There were a lot of surprise cuts in the NFL over the last day or so. So I'll break down all of those tomorrow and then maybe give you guys some more thoughts on the Red Sox. And hopefully they get a win in tonight's game against Houston. So that'll end this. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As I said, appreciate it as always. And I will see you guys again soon.